Disney offers what's called a non-qualified deferred compensation plan for executives, and that's generally a senior vice president and higher. And the point of this plan is, as you move up the ladder, you're making more and more income, which is great. We always, it's always nice to be making more income. The downside of that, though, is the tax implications associated with making more money, and especially if you work for the Walt Disney Company in California or New York, where these high income tax states can really bear down on those expenses. And so there's this plan called an unqualified deferred compensation plan, which is a form of retirement plan in essence, but that allows one to be able to save for the future. So there are four things to think about when it comes to these non-qualified deferred compensation plans. Is the first thing, what is a non-qualified deferred compensation plan? Well, it in essence is a way for a company to incentivize their high income earners by being able to fund money into a plan that is going to defer taxes. Because if you're making if you have a high income, you have large bonuses, perhaps you don't necessarily want to spend all of that money. You want to be able to save it. But in a high income bracket, you're limited on how much you can contribute to your 401k, and that percentage relative to your income, once you get up to those higher levels as an executive, really the percentages are relatively small that you're able to contribute to. And so these non-qualified deferred compensation plans were basically created as a way to put your income into this plan to save on taxes now and defer taxes as well. And that then allows companies to be able to keep paying their people well, but at the same time, it certainly comes with lots of risks, because these are really built outside of the IRS regulations. And so for that to be able to happen, there are certainly some risks involved with that. And so that's really the second thing to consider when we're thinking about a non-qualified deferred compensation plan, is the money that you stow away into these plans. You save taxes on that money this year, which is great, and can be significant savings, especially if you're in the over 30% tax bracket. It can be significant savings. However, for that plan to be able to work, to basically kind of skirt around some of the IRS regulations when it comes to 401k plans and things of that nature, these plans generally are subject to the company's balance sheet. So in essence, what the company is doing is, it's like they're really not even paying you. They're taking this money, they're putting it in a separate account, and for it to work from a tax perspective, it has to be liable to creditors. And so that amount of money, however much money you put into this account, is then subject to potentially, if the company goes bankrupt, to its creditors. And so that money is not protected like it would be in a 401k. And that's why these plans can work, because there's a level of risk involved in the accessibility of the money by the company's creditors, should the company go bankrupt for whatever reason, or come under some sort of legal challenges or what have you. And so that's a huge risk. So that amount of money is not safely protected like in a 401k. Nobody can touch the 401k money. That is protected from any sort of liability. The non-qualified deferred compensation plan, though, is subject to potential risk. And so that's part of the calculation when you're thinking about potentially using this non-qualified deferred compensation plan, especially if you're a Disney employee. Of course, Disney is a big company, and the likelihood of it going bankrupt is pretty small. But there's still potential risk if you don't work for Disney, but you have a non-qualified deferred compensation plan. There's certainly the company that you work for is going to the riskiness of that company is going to be a big part of whether you choose to participate in this plan or not. And so the third thing that we think about is then what happens to the money once it's in there? Do you have investment options? Is it going to sit in cash, or what's happening once the money is put aside? Now, for Disney's non-qualified deferred compensation plan, you're able to basically access very similar investments as what's in your 401k plan. But again, what the company is doing is they're setting it aside, so you're going to get the growth of those investments on a tax deferred basis. And so, let's say you put in $100,000 and you elect to have the money withdrawn. At separation of service, maybe at that time it's $150,000 or $200,000. The company is basically keeping track of that money for you on a separate basis, so that you still have that growth within there. But you don't have unlimited investment options, and you have limited ability to change those elections. You can't just go in and rebalance at any time. There's some rules around how often you can make changes to that investment strategy and all of that. So there's some nuances there to the investment selection to be considered. And then the fourth thing that's really a pivotal part of it is whenever you're electing to put money into that non-qualified deferred compensation plan, you have to make the decision at that time of when and how you want the money taken out. And so I think Yogi, I forget the name, but there's a famous baseball player that said, predictions are tough, especially about the future. So we have to sort of make these guesses on what's going to happen, but you really don't know for sure, and it can end up causing yourself some fairly big tax bills, because you can choose either to set the payout date based on the separation of service or on an age. And if you choose an age, maybe you're still working, and then this money is going to start getting paid out to you. Maybe you want to keep working, but now you have all this money that you saved is going to get paid out to you. So then maybe you say, well, maybe separation of service, but something happens and you get laid off, or you find a great new opportunity, and you're now getting this money 5 years sooner than you expected. And so there's some realities of having to make those decisions beforehand. But again, all of that has to be structured so that you get that tax benefit up front. And so it's not necessarily clear or simple which way to go, and how, all of that. A lot of it has to depend on what is it that you want to do. You have the ability to stretch out those payments over time, which may be a good option, unless you also have access to the pension, which if you're pre 2012 executive at Disney, you also have access to the pension. So at 65, your pension would start, and so maybe you want to accelerate the income payments if you're planning to retire early 60s or something of that nature. So lots of moving pieces and parts to the non-qualified deferred compensation plan at Disney, and a lot of that does apply to other plans, but each plan has its own specific rules and nuances, and so you really want to read your plan document carefully to understand what the considerations are.